How's the surfing?
Surfing business is good. I don't know about surfing itself because business is too good.
Well, then surfing is good for others.
Yes, I think so.
I suppose you'll have to go on vacation to get some good surfing.
I'll just need September and that'll be fine. September will get me there.
Let's hope.
Yeah, I think it will.
No hurricanes.
Oh, they'll come. Don't worry. They're brewing already.
So Fritz won't be here.
No Fritz.
There's John and Stephen.
Hi, all.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Catherine. Leslie going to be with us, or Andrew?
Leslie will be joining us. She's just running a couple minutes behind.
Okay. Should we start? Okay. This is Judith Wagner calling the planning board meeting of August 9th, 2021 to order. We know that Fritz McClure, one of our members, is not able to be with us. So let me take roll call of everybody else. Nat Lowell.
Aye, here.
Dave Iverson.
Here.
John Trudell.
Hi.
Stephen Welch.
Here.
Campbell Sutton.
Here.
And our staff, Megan Trudell
Here.
and Catherine Ansero.
Here.
Hi. And we'll have Leslie Snell joining us subsequently. As you recall, everybody, I don't think I have to read this chapter and verse, but pursuant to the governor's order and the town's policy at this point, we're proceeding by Zoom. That means it's especially important to speak clearly so Catherine can get the minutes effectively. And I would ask, remind us all, because at our last meeting, some people got a little bit testy, that our job is to be faithful to our charge and effective in dealing with the citizens' business. We ask the citizens likewise to do their best to maintain their composure, and if there's a problem with that, we'll have to take a break or go on to somebody else and come back. But we ask you not to speak over the chair, but to address any questions to me. what I have on the list for um, attendees or speakers are Ann Cuspa, Arthur Reed, Carrie Thornwell, Christopher Skeel, Dan Malloy, Dave Fredericks, David Lilly, Emily Molden, Paul Santos, and Richard Burdette. I assume you're all here, and if there's others who come that you'll be introduced as we go along. So our first order of business is to approve minutes. What dates are they, Catherine or Megan?
I did have a couple of technical corrections to make on the April 12th minutes before you guys approved them, but the May ones were included with your packet. And as long as there are no updates from board members, they should be ready to approve.
Is there a motion to approve the May 10th meeting?
So moved.
Meeting.
Second. Second.
Thank you. That was John and Nat, I believe. Roll
Dave.
call.
It was Dave.
It was Dave. Dave and Nat. Roll call. Dave,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Judith, I. Okay, next we'll have quite a lengthy list of things at this meeting that I know everybody has carefully reviewed, but these include secondary dwellings, garage apartments, tertiary dwellings, A&R plans, and we'll take previous plans separately in a minute, but are there any of the ones listed down as far as 9 Warren Street where anyone has to recuse or has questions? Is there, oh, I'm
Nine
sorry.
Warren, hold on.
I don't-
You talking about just the second dwellings right now, Judith? And
No,
the, and the garage?
I was gonna take them all, but I realized that I hadn't asked for approval of the agenda, so I'll ask that first.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
Second.
Nan. That was John. Second, roll call.
And that's approval with staff recommendations, right?
Yeah.
No, right
Yes.
now I'm just approving the agenda. with
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Leslie Snell on our staff has joined us. So this is approval of the agenda. Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Judith, I. So I'll take them separately then, if this is easier for folks. Secondary dwellings, 38 Prospect Street. I think we have to hold that until we act on the previous plan. Is that right, Megan? 27 Brewster, 31 Low Beach Road, 6 Tombs Court, 25 Hummel Pond Road, 61. Okay, that's all the secondary dwellings. Are there questions on any of those?
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Second.
And Nat second and roll call.
Dave.
Dave.
Dave seconded.
I'm sorry, Dave.
That's okay.
See me on the other side. John,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Judith, I. Okay, we'll come back to 38 Prospect Street. Megan will help me remember that. Garage apartments, 68 Cato, 1 Melville, 79 Milk Street. Any questions on any of those? Is there a motion to
I
approve?
make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Thank you. That was Dave. Is there a second?
Second.
John seconded. Roll call. Dave,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Judith, I. Okay, this is now tertiary dwellings, 6 Tombs Court, 46 Okawara Avenue. Those are both tertiary. Any questions on those? Dave Callahan just joined us. Thank you, Dave.
No.
If there's no questions, is there a motion to approve the tertiaries?
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Dave. John seconded. Roll call. Dave,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
aye. Thank you to those of you who are here for the hearing in case we needed you. I'm glad we haven't needed you, and I bet you're even happier that we haven't needed you. Megan or Leslie, this is a question before we take up the A&R plans, which I'll read off in a second. We had a question from one of the alternates about, do we have authority to recommend at annual town meeting to change any of the zoning in areas that would mean that there were fewer A&Rs and instead more requirements that had to be reviewed on the merits, if that makes sense.
So,
Leslie.
Madam Chair, while the planning board can always entertain articles to rezone different areas of the island based on studies or the master plan or citizen petition or whatever, the requirements for A&R are statutory and those cannot be changed. So as long as the A&R plan meets the requirements for endorsement under approval not required, you have to vote to endorse it.
But we could ask for changes in a particular zoning district as it applied in certain areas, for example, areas that are susceptible to flooding at this point or something of that sort.
You can always bring forward articles for consideration at town meeting.
Okay. Then that's just for information. The A&R plans are 18 Sherburne, 67 Fairgrounds, 15 Wynn Street, 12 West Creek Road Realty Trust, 126 Main, 10 Angola, 53 Hulbert, 6 and 8 Hydrangea, 9 Warren Street, and I should note that 5 Quail Lane has been withdrawn. Do we have to vote on the withdrawal too? No, okay, so the ones I just listed, are there questions? Is there a motion?
You guys are muted. Yeah.
Madam Chair, just point of order. I just looking at these before. I work for a company that just listed, a real estate company that just had a listing on one of these articles or approval not required. So I think I should recuse myself from that one, just
I think
because
that-
before, up until this past week, it wasn't, and now it is. So there might be construed a conflict.
Okay, thank you, John.
And that is the Sear at 10 Angola Street.
Okay, thank you. So we still have only the elected planning board members voting, so that means 3 of us, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Do you want to pull, you want to approve
Yeah,
that now?
I'm fine with all the
Okay.
others. I would just like to pull that one so that you all can vote on that individually.
okay. We'll pull 10 Angola.
Mhm.
Let's vote on 10 Angola first, and then we
Right.
could go back to the others. Is there a motion on 10 Angola?
Motion to endorse.
Thank you, Nat. Dave, you're muted.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Okay, so with the exception of 10 Angola and 5 Quail Lane, which was withdrawn. Is there a motion on the
I'll make a
ballot?
motion to endorse.
Thank you, John.
I'll second.
Dave seconds. Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Thank you. Okay, previous plans. Just as a refresher, since we're missing one of our number, this is one where we need to designate someone. No, we stick with the original.
Yep, the original 4, that's just because this, for 2 reasons, really. It's a clarification, but it's because it's on a subdivision, which only takes the elected members to vote.
Okay, so that's everything under previous plans.
Yes.
Okay, but we'll take them one at a time. I see Rick Bodette, or I saw him go. Oh, there he is, ghostly coming and going. Greetings, Rick. Hope you're well. Do you want Megan to go first, or do you want to jump right in?
I can jump right in. Thank you for the welcome. Nice to see everyone. I think that Megan's staff report says it pretty clearly, but this came to light, I think, due to, as you mentioned earlier, the second dwelling application of my client. And I think Megan correctly pointed out that the decision that you guys all signed did not include rights in the roadway for the lot that we were applying for on the second dwelling. So all this clarification seeks to do is just confirm that the 2 lots on North Mill who take their frontage on North Mill are allowed to have access on the interior roadway. And you probably remember from the hearing that that was something that I think was very important to the board, very important to the prior owner that sold my client these lots, and very important to my client as well. So the clarification just removes the lots on the side of the roadway, on either side of the roadway, from the subdivision, because they aren't actually included in the subdivision, but it clarifies that they are allowed to have access, not frontage, so they can't subdivide off the roadway. And also clarifies that they will be included in the maintenance of the roadway for the homeowners association. So that's about it.
Are there questions from the board? Okay, is there a motion?
A motion to endorse the technical amendment with the staff recommendations.
Thank you, John. Is there a
Second.
second?
Second, Judith.
Roll call, John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Rick.
Madam Chair, I
Yes.
have to recuse from this next one, please.
Thank you. This is Rupert's Way, 8213 Rupert's Way.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I'm sorry, I'm still here, but is now the time when you would go back and do the second dwelling on that 38? Sorry.
yes, thank you, Rick. I appreciate that.
Oh, okay. Good catch.
Yep.
Make a motion to endorse or approves 38 Prospect, second dwelling.
Second.
Okay, Nat moved, John seconded. Questions? Thanks for catching that, Rick. Roll call, Nat,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Judith, aye. I think you're safe now.
Thanks so much, everyone. a good night.
Okay,
Thanks, Rick.
yes. So Rupert's Way, Nat is going to recuse.
Yeah.
Megan, do you want to present it, or is one of the representatives going to speak to it?
I can, that's fine. So the applicant is requesting the release of the final 2 lots in the subdivision. There are a few minor things such as the installation of the sign and a final inspection by Ed that will need to be completed, but any of the items left to be completed are minor in nature and can be handled between the applicant and staff. So I'd go ahead and recommend that the lots be released, the document be endorsed, and I can go ahead and hold that in the office until they've completed all of the items to Ed's and staff satisfaction.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the release of the lots and endorse Form J to be held in the office until the applicant works with staff to complete the remaining minor items.
Thank
Second.
you, John. And who seconded?
I did. Dave.
Okay. Roll call, John,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Okay, next one is Westmore Club minor modification.
I'm bringing Paul Santos over for this one. But essentially they're just requesting to reconfigure some of the parking layout, but Paul can give a more in-depth description.
Thank you, Megan, with the chair's permission. I'll be actually very brief on this one, I think. As Megan had said, this is a minor modification request for the Westmore Club. As you all know, the Westmore Club exists under an existing major commercial development permit that has been modified a number of times, the latest being modification number 8, in which the board approved the construction of 2 tennis courts, a pickleball, tennis and basketball court, a maintenance building, and 2 new staff housing units with associated parking. Within this request, the applicant is proposing to just reconfigure the location of the parking that was depicted on the original master site plan approved under modification number 8. Total number of spaces for the project remain unchanged. And essentially what we are doing is relocating a bank of parking from the north side of one of the proposed tennis courts and putting it on the south side of the existing tennis courts. It's simply a modification or reallocation of where we plan to put those parking based on our final grading and when our engineering work had been completed. The project currently been submitted to the Conservation Commission as some of the work is within their jurisdiction. And what we are asking the board is that this is considered a minor change, and that it does not materially affect the findings and conclusion upon which the planning board's previous decision to approve the development was based, and therefore shall be allowed without a modification filing. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Your packet has both a letter and also a copy of a parking exhibit plan that I had submitted with the application.
Paul, I wanted to ask you, are the neighbors aware of this? We've had so many tweaks to the projects there, and sometimes that affects some people more than others.
Well, this application would not necessarily, where it's a minor mod, there is not a notification requirement. But however, this plan that you see before you is the plan that has been submitted to the Conservation Commission. And they were all notified under certified mailing for this current configuration. And in fact, we're before the Conservation Commission on Thursday night with this application. And for the most part, Judith, this applies internally in the site. It's actually, it's a flip-flop of parking from one side of the driveway to the other, and it basically happens on the interior of the site.
That makes sense. But all I want to confirm with you is the neighbors have seen a lot of changes with this project. So whenever you can be in consultation with the neighbors, you're better served than not having them be aware, just as a general proposition.
No, I'm aware, and I think the club has been pretty good lately with reaching out to the neighbors. And in fact, I know there has been a response to the Conservation Commission filing.
Okay.
to, based on our current application. So,
That's fine. That's just a word to the weary. or-
Madam Chair, through you?
Yes.
I was wondering if we might be able to have Megan, if she's capable of pulling up what we approved for that general area where the parking is and what it is right now, just as a comparison, not only for us to see, but anybody that's zooming in can see. So to point out, maybe Paul, you can point out what's changing from what we approved and what is the minor mod.
So when you're looking at the plan that's in front of you now, that's the colored rendering. You'll see two tennis courts, essentially a proposed tennis court, which is just north of Westchester Street, which is a darker green. And then to the north of that, there is a lighter green, which is an existing tennis court.
Mhm.
Plan that you see in front of you, the parking layout was actually, there's a band of a group of parking that was to the north of the proposed tennis court.
Mhm.
Now, if you go to the proposed plan, and I'm going to grant it, the orientation is a little bit different, but when we go up to that,
Thank you.
see that parking that was on the north side of that proposed tennis court is now
The guy is- I was just-
court.
Okay. I did so
And
many.
that's the change.
I did so many good deeds, so this was, they gave me.
So, and you can see that's where that bank of parking is right there. It's gone from the north side of the proposed to the south side of the existing.
And I think Judith brought it up. I don't have an issue with it, and I don't, we're not eliminating any parking, so that's good. I just think, especially in the future, notification should be made, even though it's not required, to the neighbors, because we did have, this wasn't a one and done meeting. I believe we had about three or four meetings to discuss this overall plan. And I know parking, also vegetation along Westchester was a consideration with the neighbors. So we, obviously we did pass it. So any change, and even though this may be a better plan, I think the neighbors should be informed, even with this minor mod, because it was not, I don't want to say hotly discussed, but it was discussed, and it didn't take one meeting. So clearly there were concerns by the neighbors. But again, I don't have an issue with this change. Oh, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
I mean, I couldn't agree with John more, but I feel like this is interior, like not bordering a road or a shared property line. And it's really literally, as Paul said, flipping it from one side of the driveway to the other, both of them next to between two tennis courts. I think that trying to get the neighbors in on this portion, I think they have an opportunity at Concom. I just think we're adding too much trouble to a simple mod.
Yeah, clarification. I preface it with, I didn't have an issue with it. Point of order, just from what Judith had said, I agree. It's not necessary as far as required, but it is a necessity to inform the neighbors, I think.
further discussion? Is there a motion?
So through you, Madam Chair, again. So, I mean, John, do you think we should approve it and then let them know? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not. Again, I don't have a problem, and I was wondering if there's anybody, they still got notification, people that are informed would check the agenda to see if this is on it, and even though they weren't properly, or not properly, even though they weren't notified formally, they should still be aware, and they would still be able to have the ability to chime in on our meeting. So I'm not opposed to this at all. I would endorse it. I just think for courtesy, because it was there were 3 or 4 meetings about this, it would just be a concern where it would have been nice to be
The right thing to do, yeah.
Mhm.
They will all be notified through Concom and have an opportunity there, though, correct?
I'm glad you pointed that out. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thanks.
Dave, my only point was just as a matter of practice and good
Yeah, no, I get it.
neighborliness. So And it's not that I doubt they're doing it, it's just we've brought it up every time they've come before us, so it seemed worth saying it one more time.
Yeah,
So-
no, it's a very good point. I just was trying to
Yep.
get my head around it.
Is
Thanks.
there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the minor modification.
Second,
Dave moves, Nat seconds. Roll call, Dave,
Aye.
Nat,
aye.
John,
Aye.
Judith, I. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. 12 Korea Lane Form J lot release, Megan. Or is John Brescher here? I didn't see it on the list.
No, John Brusher couldn't make it. But this is just a lot release. The subdivision is actually from 1973. I'm not sure how it's gone this long without being released, but it has. I can say I have performed a site inspection of this general area recently because the roadway needed to be graded as a part of a subdivision or a rear lot subdivision across the street. So roadway access is in good condition there. I'd recommend releasing the lot.
Are there questions? Is there motion?
Motion to approve or release.
Thank you, John. Is there
Second,
Nat
Second.
second? Roll call, John,
Aye.
Nat,
aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Judith, I. Okay, thank you. Thanks for handling that, Megan. All right, now for those attending, we're moving into public hearings, which means there'll be opportunities for you to speak. We ask if you'd like to speak that you raise your hand so we can recognize you and put the mic on for you. Megan will be watching for that, as will I. For the board though, first, 10 Cliff Road, 10A and 10B. This has been continued before. They want to continue it again. Is there a motion?
Motion to continue.
Second.
Madam Chair.
And I'll second.
Thank you. I don't think I have to open the public hearing, so roll call, Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Judith, I. Request for withdrawal to Mayflower Circle. Megan, you want to tell us anything about that?
I'm sure. So the applicant has decided not to move forward with the covenant lot at this time, which would make the special permit to waive the tertiary gross floor area irrelevant. They no longer need that special permit if they're not moving forward with the covenant lot. So they request to withdraw the application at this time.
Okay, we don't need to do anything. That's just for information.
Mhm.
All right. Next one, Paul Santos. Welcome back. That was a long trip away. TLSP 2021-7-1040, 21 Amelia Drive. Megan, do you want to start us and then Paul can pick up?
I can give it directly to Paul if that's okay with you, Madam Chair.
Okay, and I think I need to designate one of the alternates.
Yes.
How about Dave Callahan? See you first.
Dave, I don't know if Dave's been reappointed formally yet.
I have not been reappointed, so that's not till the 18th.
Okay. So
Okay,
Steve,
well, we're
yeah,
glad you're here, but I won't have.
If
you.
I get reappointed.
Okay, next I see Campbell.
Yes,
I activate you if that's all right. I know
Sure.
you have to leave for a meeting, but not for a while, right?
correct. I have,
Okay. She's keeping the fair alive. We appreciate that. Okay, Paul, take it away.
Thank you. On behalf of the applicant and owner, 21 Amelia Drive LLC, Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors. This application before you is for a piece of property located at 21 Amelia Drive. It's located at the southerly end of Amelia Drive, if you will, adjacent to the Granite City Electric building, which is located at the corner of Tacoma Way and Amelia. It's actually an existing vacant lot. For those of you who have traversed Amelia Drive recently, it has recently been cleared. And the application before you again is a major commercial development. The property itself is located in the commercial neighborhood zoning district. The lot contains about 12,988 square feet, where a minimum of 7,500 square feet is required. Has frontage on Amelia Drive of about 102 feet, where a minimum of 50 feet is required. The lot is also located in the public wellhead recharge overlay district. As a result, any site plan or engineering component that is approved as part of staff or Ed Pesci's review would also need to go to the Wannacomet Water Company and receive a certificate of water quality due to its location within the public wellhead recharge. The site is and will be serviced by both municipal water and by public sewer. So the applicant is proposing, and the plan is before you on the screen right now. It's also in your packet. The applicant is proposing to construct a 2-story, 4,055 square foot commercial building with a full basement. The allowable ground cover in the CN zoning district is 40% or 5,195 square feet. The first floor so this application is obviously less than the allowable ground cover. And in fact, the ground cover ratio on this proposal is around 31.2%. The first floor will contain 3 office suites and 3 drive-in garage bays. The 3 office suites essentially parallel Amelia Drive. The building is an L-shaped, if you will, with the garage bays running in a east-west direction, blocked from view from Amelia Drive. The applicant is proposing to provide 2 apartments on the second floor and 2 apartments in the basement portion of the dwelling. Based on the definition of apartment in the zoning bylaw, the locus they will comply with the requirements of 139.2, which is the definition of apartment within the bylaw. The locus will have a shared driveway entrance with Granite City Electric, which is located at 23 Amelia Drive. This is the case with many of the lots within the Amelia Drive subdivision. As part of the original subdivision, the curb cuts were limited and driveways were shared and easements were executed as part of the original Amelia Drive subdivision. All the uses that I have just spoken about, the office space, the garage bay, the apartments, are all uses that are allowed by right as set forth in the use chart at 139.7. When we go back and talk about the apartments, under the definition of apartment in the bylaw, the applicant is allowed 1 dwelling unit for each 3,000 square feet of lot area, up to a maximum of 4 apartments by right in the commercial neighborhood district. The locus contains 12,988 square feet of land, so we meet that threshold of the 1 per 3, and we do not exceed 4, which is the maximum allowable within the zoning district. As constructed, the structure will conform to setback, height. The site plan has been laid out to be in compliance with your screening requirements, aisle width requirements, ground cover, and open space requirements of the bylaw. To the extent necessary, we've requested special permit relief as to inclusionary housing and as to off-street parking under bylaw section 139.18A8. And the reason I asked for that was because while we are compliant with regard to the number of spaces for this particular use, the 3 garage spaces, when those vehicles are in the garage, I'm also parking vehicles in a format outside of the garage doors. So technically, we are asking for a stacked parking configuration. Whereas the way this building is anticipated being used, the garage would be used in conjunction with the office or apartment space, and we would have control over access in and out of parking for those garage bays. The applicant is also seeking a waiver of any traffic study, which is required under bylaw section 13923, your site plan regulations. Again, we've parked this in accordance with your regulations. It's not a commercial use or a retail use where we feel we've met the threshold of providing a detailed parking study for this particular building use. The parking layout, as you see it, complies to the 16 required spaces for this particular use. That is broken out as 1 space per 200 square feet of gross floor area for the office space, which requires 10 spaces. The apartments require 1 space per bedroom, total of 6 bedrooms proposed. That would be 6 spaces. So of the total of 16 parking spaces are required, and they have been provided. And we've also provided a handicapped accessible space for the particular property. Again, relief under the major commercial development provisions of the bylaw, inclusionary housing, the off-street parking to the extent that I'm essentially stacking parking when you look at the parking spaces inside of the garage, and then the major site plan review regarding the waiver of the traffic study requirement. We felt it was important to meet the parking requirement. We all know the situation on Amelia Drive. The intent here would be to have a use that is somewhat in conjunction with both the apartments, the garage bays, and the office suites. I did fail to mention, this is actually located just south of Joe Manning's building also. That was recently constructed. So we're in between basically Joe Manning's building and the Granite City electric facility. Again, curb cut is existing. We're maintaining that. The site itself will contain an on-site drainage system. That's a requirement under the public wellhead recharge, roof drainage, site drainage, all that would be captured and put in an underground drainage system and contained on site to meet the requisite year storm that we would be designing in a typical situation like this. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have with regard to the application.
Paul, I have one that you didn't fully address, I don't think, which is why waiver of the inclusionary housing.
I think it's typically a format like this, similar to what we've done on other ones in the in this particular area. I mean, I think the intent here is to have housing that would be utilized by staff. But again, I think it's a similar request that we made. I know we did it on the meat and fish market also. So I and asked for the same requirement for this particular setup. And again, it's kind of a fluid design on who the tenant would be or who it may be. So we've asked for, again, it was a similar waiver that I had asked for previously for, I think, 21 Old South Road, which is the meat and fish market. And I asked for it again in this particular case.
Thank you. Board members, do you have questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. Through you to Paul. I just started noting a few things. It's, the first thing that caught my eye was the handicap parking. I know this is almost, in essence, a stack parking because you have parking on the inside of the garage. So I don't know if someone is handicapped and parks there, how that would obstruct anybody on the inside with parking that needed to come out of that garage. So that's one. And Paul, you don't have to answer. You can answer, if you had a thought while I'm going, or just have me run through a couple of my concerns. I'll leave it up to you.
Okay. I'll just go ahead. Why don't you go ahead, John, and then we'll go right through them all. at the
Okay.
same-
The next is the apartments. There will be 4 apartments there, and we touched briefly whether we're going to be employee housing or not. And if they were going to be employee housing, to request a waiver for the parking, it would go a long way to have any kind of public transportation, bus passes, et cetera, for the employees. The other is the garbage. I noticed that there's a refuse enclosure in the back. Based on what the use is, that you don't really know what the use is right now for the garage bays. Is there going to be separate for residential garbage as far as, spoiling household, things? And then another one for maybe the commercial part of it, where you might have, wood or something like that to go in that's not going to be spoiled. So a separation of maybe the refuse. Also, because we don't know the use right now, will there be any kind of light commercial, a mill or something like that? And if we do have to look at that, then there would be certain restrictions on hours of operation, inside use, so that it wouldn't go on the outside as far as noise. So it's, as you're presenting it, I look at the plan and it relatively looks fairly straightforward. But as we're going through, I just started jotting down a few things, and my few things turned into 4 or 5 points. So if you need me to repeat any of those, let me know.
That's okay. Through the chair, if I could go ahead and answer
Yes.
questions. Okay. Well, regard to the uses, let me be clear. If anything's fluid, it's more so the tenant, but the uses are defined in the application. They are 3 office suites. So it's office suites and just 3 parking, just garage bays, along with the housing. So we're not talking about contractor shops. We're not talking. This is a office suites with the garage bay component applied to it, and then the apartments. And then in turn, those uses, we know what they're not going to generate any refuse other than household waste. And for the apartments, and for the office suites would be, recycling, maybe cardboard, paper, things like that, that typically would be, separated and allocated within a defined area for refuse. And for those of you that are looking at the plan, that area is defined, to the north side of the property. There is an area to the backside that would be allocated for that type of refuse pickup and drop off. With regard to the parking, again, the intent here is that that the uses here are kind of work together, and that the parking in these garage bays is coordinated along with the parking on the outside of the unit, and that that's how we kind of laid that out with regard to those 3 interior parking spaces. So it would be a case where when there's a car within inside the garage bay, we have somebody at the site, or the availability to deal with who's coming in and going out of the site at any particular time.
All right, thank you, Paul.
Important thing I think though, John, is that the actual uses. Again, this is an application for 3 office suites, 3 drive-in garage bays, and the apartments. Nothing more. It's not asking for a commercial. If it's not asking for anything commercial, not asking for any type of contractor shop or anything else like that.
Right.
The use is specific to the application.
Megan, and then I see Campbell and Dave.
Just to expand on that thought of the uses, John and Paul, I thought to include a condition that's in the staff report that any expansion of uses beyond what is presented today should absolutely come back to the board for a public hearing and amendment of the special permit.
Thank you, Megan.
And any change is also going to change the parking requirements too. So it's a kind of it does all, one would affect the other. That the 16 spaces may not be sufficient, or maybe over designed for, it'd probably be under for a commercial use, obviously, but that's going to change the parking requirement too. So we have no issue with a condition along that line.
Campbell, then Dave.
Hi, through you, Madam Chair. So, Paul, I, of course, have an issue with tandem parking, as I think everyone's aware, and I'm a little concerned that that ends up being an potential inconvenience to the people who are staying in the apartments. Is there any possibility that the open parking that is not tandem be appointed to the apartments? I think you said there were, you needed 6 spaces, and I believe there are 6 spaces to the, maybe it's the south, I don't know.
Yeah,
To-
No,
Is
you're
you-
correct. Spaces 8 through 13 on the south property line. There are 6 spaces there.
Yeah.
That
So
are
I'm-
not
if they-
associated with commercial garage use.
I'm just wondering if they can be sort of at least one per assigned to the apartments, because this sort of tandem thing with a garage door and having to find somebody when you want to get out of the garage. I mean, the garage sounds nice, but I could see that really becoming a point of tension. And, if somebody lives there and is, just has to run home for lunch or something, would be nice if they had, an appointed space that they knew would be available. Because sometimes tandem ends up with people parking on street versus in their convenient parking spot, if you know what I mean.
No,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, the other piece, for me, sort of, and I'm sure it's probably not something that is rightly addressed here, but I'm just wondering regarding the sewer, how many, I don't know if it's bedrooms that it goes on. Do you know how many bedrooms this site was approved for in the overall sewer plan for the town?
I do not know what that is, Campbell. Or whether
Okay.
this probably, again, this is a commercial, was developed as a commercial area with the ability to have the housing. I've not heard of any issues with particular to this particular area, whether there's capacity issues and so forth. It's a pretty low, if you will, between the office space and the bedrooms. It's only 6 bedrooms, Campbell. I mean, when you look at this, the flows here probably, will parallel, quite honestly, a single family home with, between the 6 bedrooms and the office space, you're not generating a lot of flow.
I understand that. I'm just sort of concerned with the apartments that are going on the other side there along Waite Drive. I believe the town is putting up apartments. I know there's a large thing on Fairgrounds, and I thought I had heard the sewer director mention something about stress upon that particular sewer line. So I don't know what that actually means, but I just thought I would bring it up in case it should be a consideration.
Paul, do you feel like you answered?
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, the application, the permit itself would require a sewer connection permit from the sewer department. And as I said, although the building's a fairly good size, when I look at the flows, I mean, you're not generating a lot of flow from, even with the bedrooms. It's only 6 bedrooms, and you're not generating a lot with the office space, quite honestly. So the garage bays would have a separate drain system. They would have a oil water separator component that would be required for any type of commercial use or parking inside of a garage. That does flow into the sewer system, but that's just a case of any type of protecting any type of spill or any type of activity that would occur in a garage structure with a vehicle in it. So it will be designed in accordance with the sewer department's regulations. The site already has a sewer connection available to it. It's already, the sewer line in the road was designed with existing sewer stubs when the line was put in. It's an 8-inch, it's a gravity line. It's not a fourth main or anything like that. It's a gravity line. And the Amelia Drive sewer was designed to handle potential build out of this subdivision.
Super, thank you, Paul.
And Paul, did you feel like you addressed the designation of parking issue?
I think so. Well, I think Campbell, quite honestly, came up with a way to potentially, we have 6 spaces that are not commercially, they're not within the, blocked or tandem. Oddly enough, tandem spaces aren't allowed under a residential use. They're not allowed under the commercial use, hence the reason I asked for the waiver. But designating, designating spaces on the site, I don't think would be an issue. I mean, like any site on the island, typically, when deliveries are made, how things are parked, it kind of evolves once the site is developed and people kind of figure out the best way to kind of maneuver and operate around it. But designated parking is, I don't think would be an issue if that's something that you feel comfortable with putting into the permit.
I wondered if Megan were to add it as a condition, if that's acceptable.
I don't think that's an issue. Yes, I think it would be acceptable that the parking that's on the site be designated. Again, I feel that once it's kind of used and in there, it may be adjusted, but we could always adjust as a minor mod. If we went in initially with designating the 6 spaces to the south, as for the residential uses, I think we could probably work around that.
Thank you. Dave Iverson, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a couple things, Paul. I mean, I just foresee problems with the parking, and I'm not going to make a big deal of it. I just, if those things at some point do become more of a commercial space for a wood shop or something, then you're going to lose a parking spot. So I would just maybe encourage the owner to reach out to the neighbors and see if they can figure something out if they need overflow parking. And then secondly, about the waiver, the inclusionary housing waiver, can you help me understand that a little more? Why you're looking for a waiver on that?
If you give me a minute, David, I'm going to go back to the inclusionary housing section of the bylaw.
Okay.
Megan's got her hand up.
Yeah.
I'll pull it up too for the exact language, but I was reading it the other day, and I think he's requesting it to the extent necessary because the board may impose inclusionary housing. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's required.
Right. Yeah.
Leslie.
Leslie, muted.
I was having some technical difficulty with my screen, sorry. The board typically hasn't required true inclusionary housing unless it's a large business with, a defined business with defined employees. Like for instance, at some point, they've required it for Nantucket Ice, but that was later waived. It's required for Great Harbor Yacht Club, for Westmore Club, for much larger scale projects where, they're definitely going to have employees that need that type of housing. The board hasn't typically required it for projects like this, where there could be different businesses coming and going.
What do we mean by inclusionary zoning here?
I think Paul was looking up the definition.
Leslie, can I just, to help Judith and anyone else, can you just, we used to also have bus pass stuff, and this was a lot of it was downtown, Judith, before we had CDT. And we used to, this came up a lot with different projects, came up with the Brotherhood, came up with, other, like as Leslie said, some of these other projects, and it's hard to require it because it ends up being a problem sometimes where it doesn't get used, like those bus pass things we used to ask them to do, Leslie. Most of the time they ended up just writing a check to NRTA, theoretically, So I think it kind of is something that we used to do a look at, and now we sort of look at each one by itself. Would that be the right way to say it, Leslie?
I think the board has always looked at it on a case-by-case basis, depending on the nature of the business and the nature of the project. And again, are there defined users, or is it something that's a little more flexible? I'll also point out that on Amelia, we do have on-street parking. There is, a connection in the works over to the fairgrounds lot. So there are other, parking options if needed in that area. And we have a final design going on to widen out that road.
And the adjacent business has lots of extra space at night. And also their business is now at 2 different locations. There's less intensity there at at Granite City. So that's changed a lot in the last couple of years. So.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. My question though is, what do we mean by inclusionary? Does that mean other than employer-related housing?
Oh.
I
If I
pulled
could-
I
I can
pulled
read
the definition.
I can read the definition if you'd like, Judith. Or if you have to answer that, I'm happy to defer to them. So,
Megan, why don't you answer it?
So pursuant to the bylaw, an inclusionary unit is any rental dwelling unit required pursuant to 13911H, which is the MCD bylaw, which would be restricted to employee occupancy. In the MCD bylaw, it doesn't state necessarily that it's a requirement of an MCD. It just suggests that the planning board may impose inclusionary housing requirements. And as Leslie had pointed out, it's kind of intended for more large scale operations.
Thank you. Dave?
Yeah, and that's my thought process here is and I don't want to get stuck on it, but we continued where we create more commercial spaces, yet we're not guaranteed that any apartments associated with them are going to be used for people that are manning those jobs. So I'm concerned that these apartments are going to end up to be weekly or monthly rentals and not really housing people. And I guess they have a right to do that, but I'm just voicing my opinion. So and then just one last item is the storm sewer plans. Will Ed be reviewing those? Perfect. Thank you.
And I suggest that we, if you're ready to move forward with the vote today, that we do condition that before they receive any sort of construction permits, that Paul and Ed and staff are all on the same page.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Paul and Madam Chair.
David, Wanna Water Company will also be reviewing that too. It's a dual,
Okay, yeah, I know that.
the
Yeah.
public wellhead recharge, it's a dual review.
And I think that's in the condition number 3 for the town consulting engineer to review and approve
Yep.
before permits.
Awesome. Thank
Also,
you.
just as a note, timing, if you're going to have offices, generally they're going to be working during the day. And if there's going to be a residence, they're going to be parking at night. And maybe when they get up to go to work, they'll be leaving. So maybe there'll be that flow of parking. And I think Paul said this, they probably will kind of work itself out a little bit. And although we all have concerns with parking, and we've seen too many things where we've approved something and then there was a lack of parking because it turned around and did something that we didn't really approve. But hopefully this isn't one of those.
And just the on-street parking there is an issue, and I just hate to add to it until at least we get that figured out. It was my concern.
Well, if I could, that's why I felt it was more important to ask for the tandem than to ask for a waiver of 3 spaces. I mean, to me, it was important to come in, especially on Amelia, that if the requirement was 16, we came up with 16, we have 16 spaces. It may be a little bit unorthodox on how we use them, but we're not asking, we didn't come before you and ask for a waiver of 3 spaces.
No,
I just better way.
You all set, Dave?
Oh, just through you, Madam Chair. And again, like Nat said, I do encourage the owners to reach out to their abutters to see if there's something they can figure out, if it comes to it, to keep the parking off the street, at least until that street gets worked out. Thanks.
Okay, Campbell, and then I've got people in the audience. Campbell.
Oh, thank you, Judith. I would just like to support David's thoughts on the inclusionary housing. Not that all apartments have to be that way, but it would be nice if at least one of them or two of them were considered for it. Not in a forced way, but I think his points are well made.
Paul, is that something you feel possible to agree to without being required to?
It's not something that I could do personally, Judith, without consulting with my client. I mean, if you were talking about it, I think you'd be talking about one unit, because when you go to the inclusionary section of the MCD requirements, I think it talks about 1 per 4,000 square. So you wouldn't trigger more than one space. But again, I'd have to.
Maybe if we have to put in a condition about Ed Pesci, we can ask you just to consider raising that with your client. Leslie?
So we could certainly make a note in the condition that the board encourages use of the apartments for employees of the businesses. And I think that's something that everyone could agree on, right, Paul?
I think that's something I'm sure we could agree to, yes.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen attending, if there's anyone who'd like to speak to this matter, it's a public hearing. You need to address questions through me to the applicant. I thought I saw Emily Moulton and now I don't see her. But is there anybody who wishes to speak on this? If not, Emily, yes. Emily?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Emily Molden for the Nantucket Land Council. I had just raised my hand specifically to ask about the stormwater design plans, which I hadn't seen in the packet, and given the wellhead protection district, I wanted to make sure that those were submitted and reviewed, but you guys covered it, so I had lowered my hand again.
Okay, thank you. Then I think it's time if anybody's ready to make a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Yeah. Second.
Thank you, Dave.
I agree with John and that.
Okay. Let me get that straight. John made the motion. Sorry.
Matt, second.
Nat seconded. Ready to vote. John,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Now on the merits.
I'll make a motion. Let's see if I can remember. To approve with the finding that the applicant's request is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw, and the 3 conditions that staff had made, and also with the recommendation that it's preferred, or how did Leslie put it for inclusionary housing? Encouraged, thank you. And I think that's it.
I believe something with Mr.
Designated parking.
Oh, Pesci was under the conditions number 3. That's that I've already stated. It says the town's consulting engineer shall review and approve all the requesting items referenced in the report before the site is eligible for any construction permits.
Super.
But does that include considering designating parking spaces?
We can add the designated parking spaces. I jotted down a note that says to add a condition to designate spots shown as 8 through 13 for the residential uses on the site.
Could I
Okay.
add that as number 4 for the conditions, Meg?
Mhm.
Great, I'll add that.
Okay, so John made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, that was Nat. Roll call, John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much,
Okay,
everyone.
PLSP 2021-7-1041, the Roberts Collection Amendment, 2 and 4 Chestnut Street, 29 and 31 Center Street, 11 India Street, 16.5 Federal Street. I believe this is Sarah Alger and maybe with helpers. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think one of my clients, Brad Guidi, is here as well.
Yes.
So do you want me to-
Sarah, before I forget, whose turn is it to step in? I think Stephen Welch, you're activated. Sorry, Sarah.
No, that's perfect. I just wanted to ask you if you were ready for me to dive in.
Yes, please.
Okay. So this is an application to modify an existing MCD special permit. This is the permit for the Roberts Collection, the properties at 2931 Center Street, and then the property on India Street. What we're doing is we're wanting to add into the MCD the properties at 2 Chestnut Street, which is an inn property, and the property at 16 Federal Street, which is a retail establishment. And then in connection with bringing them over into the MCD, we plan to construct an addition to the pre-existing non-conforming guest house at 2 Chestnut Street. That structure's higher than 30 feet, but no, about 35 feet high. And what we're proposing is an addition that would be higher than the 30 feet, but no higher than that pre-existing non-conforming height of about 35 feet. I think that's consistent with other relief that the board has granted in the CDC. The result of the renovation, and I think a really small addition, that 243 square feet is the size of the addition on the ground that we propose. We're going to be well below the 75% ground cover ratio. We'll be going in the 2 Chestnut Street property from 19 guest units and 19 guest units and 19 guest bedrooms, where there are currently 9 guest units and 10 guest bedrooms. And that's kind of the long and the short of it.
So Sarah, as to the height issue, what is the current nonconformity?
Height, it's 35 feet.
35, but you'd end up with something under that, like 33 or.
I think we may go right to the 35. We'd like the ability to go right to the 35 feet.
Okay. Let me go through with the board with questions, then we'll take any questions from the.
Had done some elevations, and I think those were included in what I filed. Or maybe it's just the floor plans.
Folks, I need you to raise your hand because I can't see you with the display. I think I saw Dave Iverson before we.
Yes, you
moved.
did. If I may, Madam Chair, I would just like to add to the conditions on this one with the Chestnut House, that if any construction's done, that especially down in the basement there or anywhere around there, that the tree warden is brought into the process, because I think there's some nice big old trees in that area that we would hate to see anything bad happen to.
Sarah?
I think that's a reasonable request.
And could I ask maybe distinct but possibly related one. Condition or finding number 4 is not detrimental to adjoining properties by casting shadows or loss of privacy. As I recall, when you were here previously, there were full-time residential users that had issues here, and I don't see them with us tonight, but have you consulted at all with neighbors who may be affected by any construction there?
I don't think we have, but we're pretty much surrounded, except on one side, by our own property.
I can appreciate that, but I know you're a woman of wisdom, and that there's advantages in talking with people ahead of time rather than.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that's just an observation.
And Brad may have more knowledge on that particular subject than I do.
Okay, Brad.
Hi, Brad Guidi with Blue Flag Partners. I think when we were here last, you might be confusing this with our Cliff Road property. Where
No, I'm sorry, I'm not.
No,
well, we haven't done any construction on this other than interior renovation.
No, but
in
there was somebody who was
I
a
think
long time.
I think what the chair is referring to, Brad, is the concerns that the people at Craftmaster and
Oh, yes,
That's
about the
it.
noise. There was
That's it.
a noise, I believe, was the
the little
issue.
outside seating area thing.
that was the outside seating area. I think the woman at 16.5 Federal Street had an issue, but now, of course, she sold to us, so she's no longer concerned.
Well, it's just
Yeah.
like the Westmore Club. It's better to.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for considering.
Can I just add one note
Please,
to that?
yes.
The construction that's being proposed, we are abutters on both sides of it. So the Hawthorne House is abutting one side and the Gatehouse is abutting the other side, which is both part of the overall hotel collection.
And is there going to be any disruption from the construction?
I'm sorry, any what?
Disruption from the construction.
Other than just your, typical, we have to construct. So construction by nature is disruptive, but we would obviously be doing that on off season.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that if you grant the relief that you'll put on the same restriction we had last time about the non-seasonal nature of the construction. We wouldn't propose to work in the summertime anyway.
Right. Thank you, Sarah. Megan?
So just to expand on that, I think, the recommended condition that all of the conditions from the original decision shall remain in full force and effect. I think that would cover any construction issues in terms of hours of operation. And then in terms of noticing the neighbors, there was a quite lengthy abutters list and they were sent certified mailings. They had the opportunity to reach out, review the application. We hadn't heard any feedback from any of the abutters for this particular application.
Thank you, Megan. Stephen?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Sarah actually addressed the point I was going to bring up, and Megan clarified it both with respect to the prior conditions. So I'm actually fine with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Campbell. Campbell?
Sorry, I just did have a couple of questions. I believe these are historic structures, are they not?
Yes, they are.
So one of the concerns I had, or thoughts I had anyway, on I believe it's the garage that's going to become an addition to the 35-foot height. I would like to see that stay as a secondary dwelling to the historic primary dwelling, and to have that visual decrease in height so that it maybe somewhere around 32 feet, 33 feet, 32 would, in my mind, visually and historically work better. I don't think that just because you're adding on to a historic non-conforming building that should justify a further non-conformity in a new addition. The other thing I just pipe in on the abutters mailing, we have had terrible times with mailing. I don't know about anybody else, but so getting things in a timely fashion seems near impossible these days. So hopefully, I mean, I know you guys are the abutters to your own property, so hopefully it's all good. But that's
Sarah may want to respond. I don't think we have discretion to cut back a non-conforming use. Sarah?
No, and I think that's really going to be something that will be hashed out at the HDC. I'll be looking to them to make the decision as to how it should historically fit together. I was a little confused by the primary, secondary dwellings comment because these are not primary and secondary dwellings.
Well, I just meant the primary structure, like the primary existing structure is the guest house.
I see.
So I used the wrong terminology in that sense, but in terms of the scale of the structures, both of which are historic, I believe. And yes, I just was a little confused. So I didn't want to have the planning board maybe go forward as if they were approving 35-foot in front of the HDC. But if it's going to the HDC, I can make comments there as well.
Yeah, and I think that would be appropriate. I just don't want to get in a situation where we say it has to be no more than 33 feet high, and then we get to the HDC and it really works out, well, it's 33 feet, 4 inches. And then I have to come back to you and get in kind of a cycle of permitting. So I'd like the ability to go to 35 with the understanding that the HDC will determine what's appropriate for the historic structure.
Stephen, and then we've got people from the audience. Stephen?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify for the record, again, a point Sarah just made. My being all right with the application and it proceeding is not with respect to the architectural design, the elements, or the height. Obviously, those are things that will be addressed directly at the HDC. So I just want to clarify what I was okay with and that I have trust and hope in the HDC once it gets there. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
I think a lot is addressed with what Meg had stated, that all conditions in the original decision shall remain in full force and effect. And that answered a few of the questions that we have as far as time of construction. You obviously didn't want to have anything during July going up there, and those fall back to the original decision restrictions and conditions. So it exists as 35. I'm sure the HCC will give them a lot to think about. So if they can somehow appease the HGC with 35 and have that structure, I'm okay with that because it's going before that board. No one's mentioned this, and I'm kind of glad, but I'm going to throw it out there just in case somebody says anything. We're going from 9 to 19 and then another 10 to 19. So we're, it looks like we're gaining about 20 or 19 or extra units there. So that obviously is, I don't know how they're going to fit all those in. We're really almost doubling the capacity that was there before. But this is what Nat always talks about, the area to do it. It's downtown. It eliminates cars and traffic. If we can have places in downtown to stay. I guess the neighbors that Sarah addressed sold to Blue Flag, so that eliminated one of the neighbors that had an issue. I'm sure there would be the same concerns that the other neighbor had at Craft Masters for any kind of noise, and with those extra units there, garbage, we addressed even from recyclable pickups at certain times when they can do that. So we really spent a lot of time on the previous the approval on conditions. So I feel really good about, as long as that is in place, I feel good about the application.
And I just want to mention, bear in mind, we have 3 existing guest houses that we're operating at the same time that we're doing this. So we're not going to shoot ourselves in the foot any more than we're going to shoot our neighbors in the foot by having loud and crazy construction. We're going to try to manage it in a time when it's the least disruptive as possible.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the public, we're now moving to the public hearing part of the meeting. And again, I ask if you have questions, please direct them through me to the applicant. Mr. Scahill.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. I think this is fantastic. It's great for the downtown area. They do a great job. One question that I'd like to point out is the condition of the street at this particular moment in time with regards to the rubbish is questionable at best. So I leave it to the board to make sure that whatever the conditions were that were put in place before with regards to the rubbish situation are enforced. And I really look forward to seeing this great addition go on. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Sarah or Mr. Guidi, do you have comments on the garbage?
Yeah, I can speak to that. We are in the process, and thank you for that comment. We are in the process of trying to get that fixed. There's some concrete work that needs to be done so the dumpsters roll. We've just been encountering, like everybody, labor shortages to get that work done. So we're as anxious as everybody to get that fixed, and we are aware of that issue.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public who'd like to speak? I see none. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
Second.
Move Dave. Was that Dave who seconded?
Yes.
Roll call. John.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Nat.
Aye.
Stephen. Stephen. Come back, Stephen.
Steve.
Think you're on mute, Stephen.
Chair votes to close. Stephen, do you vote to close?
I do. Sorry, Madam Chair, having some mic problems.
Okay, unanimous vote to close. Now, motion on the merits, please.
I'll make a motion to approve with the staff recommendations and the findings, 4 findings, as well as the condition that all conditions in the original decision shall remain in full force and effect.
Second.
Okay, Megan.
Through you, Madam Chair, are we going to add the condition that came up in conversation about consultation with the tree warden if
Yes.
necessary? Okay.
Yes, please. So
Okay,
we're-
I'll add that, amend that, and add that to one of the conditions. Thank you.
So that was John moved as amended, and Dave, I think you seconded. You didn't second. Who
I
seconded?
don't think I seconded. Nat, maybe?
I think I seconded, yes.
Okay, thank you. Roll call. John,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Judith, aye. I think that's it.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, sub 2021-07, 184, ACT Mid-Island LLC and ACT Offices LLC, Navigator Way subdivision, 26 Sparks Avenue. Dan Malloy, there you
Yes.
are.
This one I'm bringing over Dan Malloy and Arthur Reed. And because it's a subdivision, it's just the 4. You don't need to activate anyone for this application.
Good to see you, gentlemen. Hope all is well with you.
Afternoon. Want me to jump right into it?
Yes, unless Megan wants to go first. No, go ahead, Dan.
All right. Dan Malloy for the applicant, Site Design Engineering. So what we have before you this afternoon is the Sparks Ave subdivision. This is following right behind the preliminary subdivision plan the board reviewed and approved a few months ago, just around town meeting. So the plan before you is exactly, I would say, almost to the letter, what you reviewed and approved in the preliminary plan. It is 12 lots. It is a cul-de-sac coming off of Sparks Ave. I'll start off where the intent of the project to make this process a little easier for discussion. The intent of this plan is a freeze plan for zoning. Obviously, the board has to look at this as if it were to be constructed. That's certainly not our goal. But from a permitting standpoint, that's what you have to look at it for. But it is 12 lots, CMI district, cul-de-sac coming off of Sparks Avenue, 20-foot paved road. If you look at the plans in detail, you'll see all the utilities on there that are required. You'll see actually a bike path going around the cul-de-sac. It's not necessarily meant to make full sense as if it was built that way. But from strictly a permitting standpoint, again, the intent is to provide you with a plan that does not require any relief from the regulations. So I can go over all kinds of detail if you like on design analysis and other questions you might have. But it's basically exactly what you've already seen before.
Dan, can I just confirm this came forward in connection with the zoning freeze? Do you foresee what's here is the real thing, or do you foresee other changes?
Well, in terms of the subdivision in front of you for a zoning freeze, that is the zoning freeze plan.
Okay.
However, in terms of what everybody's aware of, obviously we'll be coming back before you at some point in the near future for an MCD for the major commercial development on the property. That's our end goal. This is just a means to get us through zoning to get to the application.
And that's when we would impose requirements about how parking works, how access works, all the rest of it, right?
Right. So right now it's a subdivision. Once we file an MCD, then we'll get into the details of that particular design.
Thank you. Arthur, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, if I may, the point on this is, as Dan indicated, the intent of the owner is to proceed with the MCD application that will be coming before you later. However, you have to assume for purposes of this plan that it could be and would be built out in accordance with this. And of course, we could always fall back to this. So you should have any and all conditions that you want to apply. We're not asking for any waivers. If we were to wind up with this plan as a practical matter, I think it is likely that the lots, that combinations of lots would be put together. This is, after all, in the CMI district, a commercial district. So the users of the lots would be anticipated to be commercial users for the various relatively light commercial uses that are permitted in the CMI district. And obviously, there would be permitting issues that would come up later on with the particular applications that would be on the particular lots.
So some of them might have to do with water, because we know there's issues about water in that vicinity, and that would be part of the MCD. Right.
Well, the MCD will cover all the issues with regard to the project that will be proposed to you as the applicant's preferred use for the property. And yes, all those issues will come up. What we're dealing with here now is strictly the issue of subdividing the property, which we're asking to do without any waivers, with the anticipation that the conditions that would be applied to it would fully cover any potential uses of the property as it would be laid out and in accordance with the zoning bylaw. And that if it were to develop in that way, that individual lot owners would be coming back before the board with particular projects that they would use. But for the time being, assuming that each one of these lots would have a commercial operation on it of some sort, which might also have an ancillary dwelling.
Thank you. Board members, I see Campbell. Are there others on the board who'd like to speak? Campbell?
Yeah, just quickly before I go, I think I did email you today. Thank you for your responses, Judith, regarding some of my thoughts on this. Because it does sound like we should be at least considering this as a fallback plan. I think for me on lots 1 and 4, to combine the access as commercial lots with the existing easement, I believe, for house fitters, and I believe the other exit would be with the Cumbie exit. I'd like to see those lots utilize that type of exit instead of another curb cut. I know that currently there are 3 or 4 curb cuts there, but those properties have been very, very lightly used. So that shouldn't be a precedent. The other thing I was wondering, Dan, is whether you thought that with this wonderful water collection system you have, whether there would be a way to utilize the captured water, treated captured water, or filtered, however you want to say it, as irrigation for these commercial properties. I think that would be a really excellent way to get the water back into the wellhead. And since we were just speaking at it about 21 Amelia, I guess I'd like to put in the thought of the inclusionary housing. If there are to be some form of dwelling unit on the property. And I apologize for going so fast, but I have to run and I wanted to get my ideas out there. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could respond to
Yes.
Campbell on that.
Please.
The issue of inclusion, am I on? The issue of inclusionary housing would only come up in the context of an MCD. There's no other provision for it. We're dealing here with a subdivision application, not an application for an MCD or any other use.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
And Arthur, Dan, the water issue about irrigation, I would think that's a wanna comment.
That's somewhat of a wanted comment in an Ed Pesci. So in terms of if recharging the aquifer is sounds like the main question, that's what this system will do. It collects the water, treats it, and infiltrates it back in the ground. The idea of possibly using that water in reverse to then collect it, irrigate with it, and let it go back in the ground. That is a possibility, but that's something that would more likely be done on a lot by lot basis versus something you design and put in a road for then everybody to use.
So it would be, then it would come from the roof collection system that you're speaking of on each property?
Right, something like that could be, each property could have, the question is the complexity of what you're asking. It can be done, but to meet the regulations here, we have to also infiltrate and put this water back in the ground. So there is some ability, I would say, with roof drains. You could collect some in, like people do in roof barrels, things like that. You could collect some of it, reuse it. That certainly is a possibility.
Okay.
But that would be something I think from a condition or permitting standpoint would be easier to regulate and do on a lot. When someone comes in to develop a lot, that'd be dealt with at that point in time rather than at this level.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the board. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. If any of you would like to speak to this matter, this would be your opportunity. Please raise your hand logo and I'll call on you, and I'd ask that you speak through me rather than directly to the applicant. Going once, going twice. Okay, nobody wants to speak. Is there a motion to close?
So moved.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay,
Dave,
Second.
Nat, seconded. Roll call, Dave,
Aye.
Nat,
aye,
John,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Okay, on the merits.
Madam Chair, just for clarification too, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but some of the printed material that I have identifies it as Navigator Way, and I believe
Yeah.
the correct one is Mariner Way. Just
other
so
way
that
around, I think.
anything that we're voting on, we make sure that we have the right term.
Good catch, John. Megan and then Leslie.
It's, the subdivision is Navigator Way. Dan had submitted it as Mariner. But I actually asked him to change it because we already have a Mariner Way. And even though this is just to implement a zoning freeze, I didn't want there to be any confusion between the two subdivisions. So it's
Thank you.
Navigator Way.
So it is Navigator. Okay.
Yeah,
Who'd like to make a motion on the merits?
No one?
I'll make the motion to, I guess we're approving this with the staff recommendations and findings.
second,
I don't think we added anything, right?
No.
no. I think
Okay,
so.
so Dave moved and who seconded?
Nat.
Nat. Roll call. Dave,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye,
John,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now you're welcome to stay if anybody would like to do that, but we're down to our beginning of our discussion of possible annual town meeting articles. First thing, Leslie, when I asked Andrew about this, it wasn't clear we're having a fall town meeting. Is it any clearer now?
But we are operating under the assumption there is no fall town meeting.
Thank you.
So if I may, you have a list in your packet of suggestions for consideration for the fall or for the annual town meeting. I believe that's scheduled for May 2nd. This is sort of a running list. So, some things stay on the list from year to year as priorities shift. So I don't want you to have the expectation that we're going to be able to do everything that you see on this piece of paper and then more as other ideas come up. This is purely conceptual, but there are some things that we do want to focus on, which is in accordance with the master plan, and that would be some of the RC2 phase out articles. We've made a lot of progress on that, and there's more to be done. RC, same thing. We have we're down to pretty much to the end on that, and we have some tougher areas to work with. So some of those may be more time consuming than others. The R1 phase out, those are just concepts. The SR1, depending on area plan, that's for Sconset. So we'll see what comes out of that. Woodland Hills, that's all in R1, and that's pretty much getting built out at this point. So it might be a good time to think about that one. We have some map amendments that are technical in nature. There's some split lot cleanup that needs to happen. You all just voted on a little technical change in Richmond that now has lots split between R5 and CN. So we need to correct that. Then we have some bylaw amendments, some technical things that always come up. The ZBA had asked me about a change to the height bylaw, but I've already looked into that once before and it didn't go well. So I'm not keen on looking into that again right now. Perhaps a special permit allowance for the regularity factor. Right now, you can only waive that by variance.
Leslie, one I added was one that I know John had raised, which is the size of tertiaries.
Yeah, well, I got
Yes.
an email about that today, so that's certainly
Right.
something we'll add to the list.
I
for
just
consideration.
wanted to be sure that it made this list.
Is that,
I agree,
Yeah.
Judith. We've
Yeah.
always had discussions, and maybe we just need really to fine tune it and make a better clarification of existing buildings and basements and things that are being converted into tertiary. So we don't have to necessarily limit it to the 650 square feet, but as it's written right now and following the intent of the bylaw, we do have to enforce that. So new construction. So maybe it's just something that we start thinking about. If we feel that we need to increase the size of the square footage for tertiary units, that's something we can talk about. But maybe even clarifying existing and then new construction, so they can conform to the size. That would eliminate a lot of the issues that we've had with applicants coming before us. So I think that's very good for consideration.
Okay, so we'll think about.
Leslie, keep going. I want to come back to short-term rentals maybe at the end.
Okay, I'm not sure if there will be any cannabis-related articles from the Cannabis Advisory Committee, so we have that on with a question mark. We have a typo on the open space bylaw. Andrew has some ideas for that that he's working on, bringing forward to you all for consideration. And then there's another concept floating out there to allow an additional covenant unit to be created on a lot. I mean, this is super conceptual, but the idea would be if you can have, 3 units now, why can't, more than one be subject to the covenant? So that's something that a few people are thinking about and trying to develop an idea to bring forward. So that would
Then
create
Leslie,
not necessarily more dwelling units, but more dwelling units subject to the covenant.
yeah, Leslie, can I just, since this is something that I talked about it with the tertiary before, and that was kind of made no sense. Once you start seeing what these covenants look like now, they're very small but tall, full 2-story. So you get the bedrooms, but the ground cover is kept, in its existing allowed on that entire lot that it's in. I think that, this is something we need to talk about as a board. I don't want it to be my article. Personally, I think this is something that we should promote and talk about with your clever wording and all the fancy language that needs to be in with this, because my way of talking about it is a lot rougher than yours, but it makes a lot of sense. And I think this is something that will be received well once people understand it, because we're not theoretically adding building. We're allowing what's already allowed to be built, and nobody gets to do this unless it's a covenant. So I think this is a positive thing. And what better time to do it than now? So thank you.
Thank you, Nat. I see Julia Linder would like to speak. If you don't mind, I'm going to say a couple things first. I'm really concerned about short-term rentals, largely because I compared the current situation here to what I've seen in North Carolina, where in order to protect, say, waterfront fishing and things like that, they developed a concept called community protection district that was short of historic protection district, but was really designed to assure that there was space for regular people, that everything didn't go to full tilt development for the maximum dollar. And I know, having heard particularly realtors talk about, it's better to have more opportunities for visitors to be closer to the ferry and closer to downtown. But when I step back and look at the island as a whole, at some point I worry that there won't be any space for the people doing the service for others who are here in the summer, or people who are here working on behalf of the public, firefighters and teachers and transportation planners and folks like that, unless we somehow find a way to constrain, and maybe my thinking was develop some different kind of district, or to modify the secondary dwelling developments, maybe along the lines of what Nat's thinking about, added covenant, or maybe in some way with more teeth for inclusionary housing. But I know from talking to Andrew that he's done a lot of work with others to try to track down what other towns are. I bet, Leslie, since you're such a research whiz, you probably had a hand in all this as well, to look at what models may exist out there. For example, Charleston, South Carolina has tourist home designation for certain parts of the city, not everywhere, but where you can see the development of secondary units for visitors and that kind of thing, without having the whole of the place become taken over by non-permanent people. So I just wanted to put in front of you that that's something I'm going to ask about again. And I think we owe the select board the chance to hear further from us. We had one meeting with them, and we may need more of that, but I really think we're in a grave situation if there really is going to continue to be purchase of property for investment and no space left for those who are working for the public, or just doing the usual support kinds of functions, or just living here. So just wanted to share that. Leslie, anything you want to add to that of what you know so far?
No, I just want to add that Andrew said to make sure to let you all know that he is continuing his research and he's working on some concepts to bring forward to you at a later date.
Thank you. Julia Linder, this is either public comment or contribution to the current conversation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was going to be public comment either or, but this is the perfect time. It was just a quick message. This is Julia Lindner. I'm the Executive Director for Act Now, as you all know. I just wanted to come on this evening to let you, the Planning Board, and the staff know that as you begin to look at short-term rentals, if you're seriously considering bringing an article to town meeting, we have resources, certainly research, and that we're open to sharing. And I will be in touch directly with Andrew and Leslie after this meeting to extend the offer.
Thank you. Other members of the board want to comment on short-term rentals or anything else that should be on our town meeting prospect list? Leslie, are there things that we've forgotten that you felt need to be addressed?
No, I think we're good. We just wanted to, go over the list with you so you have it. And if you have additional ideas or thoughts on it, to let us know.
But it's definite there's no fall town meeting, right?
That's my understanding.
Okay. That gives us some more time, because we ended up with multiple duty last time, and it's better to be forewarned than forearmed, or something like that.
Well, usually if there is a fall, administration and the select board like to keep it to things that can't wait for the annual. So you know, that would be a tight timeline at this point. So we'll just
Yeah,
move
it's
it.
nearly September, so given the timeline for review by FinCom and everything else and the hearings and all.
Madam Chair, can I
Yeah.
bring up something with Leslie and Megan for a second?
Please.
To add to this list, the second curb cut discussion, especially the one that you just recently got through, the painful one. In the ROH district, I know you guys already know all this. I don't know, when did the second curb cut special permit come into effect? 98? Is that what year it was? So Leslie, you're muted. Megan, you're muted.
Yes.
So I can't even believe I'm going to ask this question, but how many do you think are out there right now that are unpermitted? 100, 200? I mean, it could be, there's tons of them out there, and they don't get noticed until there's a closing, correct? Or some type of permit application for something that grazes it, correct?
Usually.
Okay. Because I know we had a bunch out in Cisco, you know, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago with these like hoopy ones and stuff that no one ever, on dirt roads and things like that no one cared about. I just think that we need to find a way to, if this is our own bylaw, I don't know what the language could be. This is up to you guys. But when someone has a 40-foot curb cut, that's just a curb cut. Like, see you later. 3 cars, all set. But somebody comes along and wants one little dinky car put at one end of a house, it's a big problem or controversial. I mean, I don't know what the answer is to fix this or make it a little bit less like it's in the middle of nowhere. The ones that are out in the middle of nowhere, that's a whole different animal to look at. But these ones in town are different. They have to be looked at historically, almost like the buildings, like an HDC type of thing. And that's the pair of eyes that I put on it. They're all different. So I don't know what we could do differently, Leslie. This might not be something for this year. This would be something for 2023. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there as a discussion because of what recently happened. And I've done a lot of looking at some of these curb cuts. I never asked you guys before about the big long ones until a few weeks ago. And there's a lot of them. So thank you.
Thanks, Nat. Anybody else want to get anything put on the list or share insights? Any other public comment? Then I think we're
Making dinner on time.
Wow.
for a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call. John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Thank you to Leslie and Megan and Catherine and everybody. And Dave, we look forward to welcoming you back. And Stephen, it's always good to see you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
All.
Good night, all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right on.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.